All right, so you can have your books open to page 140 and opened up your notes for lesson 4. And today we're going to be looking at how do organisms interact. So when we're working amongst them, how they interact with each other. So what you're going to do, we're going to begin reading competition among animals. And competition is words you hear often among people too. Have you ever competed in a sport? The prize for winning a sports event may be a trophy or just the pride of winning. The cost of losing is simply disappointment. In the world of animals, stakes of competition are even greater. In all environments, organisms compete for the things they need. And that's in our very first notes. Organisms, they only are fighting for things that they need. They may compete over space, water, light, food, or mates. So, light, food, or mates. And mates, space, they need space to live, they need water and light to live, they need food to live, and mates is in order to reproduce. They do not compete for a trophy. They often compete for their lives. An organism that cannot compete may die or may be forced to move away to get its needs met. Animals of the same species sometimes compete with one another. At other times, different species may compete for resources. For example, rabbits, mice, and other animals of a desert community compete with each other for food plants. Animals such as cats, dogs, and bears may compete for territory. You may have heard cats screeching as they fight over territory in your neighborhood. Perhaps you have heard a dog's loud bark when it sees a person in its yard. This is the dog's way of warning, "Get out of my territory." There's also competition among plants. Have you heard of the plant that ate the South? This is what many people have jokingly said about the kudzu, a vine that was brought to the southern states in the mid 1880s. When it competes with other plants for sunlight, kudzu usually wins. The vine quickly grows and covers other plants, preventing them from getting sunlight. Since the covered plants cannot move away, they die. So plants compete for sunlight and blank. Plants also compete for water. Plants with larger root systems will absorb water more quickly than other plants. In what kind of biome do you think the competition is stronger or strongest? I think that it might be in the biomes such as not the desert, because those biomes don't have really big roots, but they do pick up water very quickly, so it could be the desert. But also, we also see the tropical rainforest. Those roots really pick up water also. So plants with larger roots absorb more water. And you can look through just the different pictures on here. This is the kudzu that we see that kind of just takes over everything. Symbiosis, living together. Animals are not always in competition with each other. Just as there are many kinds of relationships between people, there are many kinds of relationships between species. Symbiosis is a long-term relationship between different species. One of the species is always helped. The other might be helped, harmed, or not affected at all. So just looking at our notes, animals are not always in competition. With each other. We know that we're talking about symbiosis. Is a long-term relationship between different species. One of the species is always going to be helped or benefit. The other might be helped, harmed, or not affected at all. The buffalo and the cattle egret show one kind of symbiosis. As the buffalo grazes, it causes insects hiding in the grass to fly or hop away. The bird could easily get a meal by feeding on those moving insects. In this kind of symbiosis, the bird is helped, and the buffalo is not really affected. Egrets may eat insects off the back of the buffalo, but whether or not this helps the buffalo is not certain. So in this situation, the egret is helped, but the buffalo is just eating away and doing its job. A second kind of symbiosis does help the buffalo. Microorganisms inside its digestive system help the buffalo digest the food it eats. In this kind of symbiosis, both species are helped. The tiny creatures, the microorganisms inside the buffalo, have a meal brought to them, and the buffalo can digest grass and leaves. All right, and then going to the next one is this is where we see the helpful or harmful. In a third kind of symbiosis, organisms might cause the buffalo great harm. These are parasites. So parasites are going to be, a parasite is an organism that feeds off another organism called a host. So parasite feeds off of a host. Some parasites are worms that live in the buffalo's intestines or bloodstream. These parasites eat the buffalo's food before the food gets to the buffalo's cell. They might also take oxygen from the buffalo's blood. Parasites can get the buffalo weak or sick. In another kind of symbiosis, one organism is not just helped by a partner, but rather it needs a partner in order to survive. So just with the parasite is bad, pretty much bad, but it also is the one that will survive, whereas the host gets affected and is harmed. So we're looking at the next kind is where one needs the other to survive. Lichen is one example. It is made up of a fungus and a plant-like bacteria or algae. The bacteria or algae make food from sunlight. The fungus survives by getting some of this food. The fungus gives the bacteria or algae a safe home. So lichen they need fungus to survive. So there is a lot of types of different relationships that go on between plants and animals, and some that are helpful, some that are harmful, some that don't affect the animal at all. But one species is always going to be helped. The way that you're going to get to your worksheet for today, you will not have it in your packet. You can go to your steps to completion, and you can click on the worksheet for it, and then it will pop